I'm standing on the top, and I look down, and there's these handsome people. Everybody's like from a movie set. What's your name? My name is Kane, sir. What's your first name? They call me Raisin. I say, wait a minute, your name is Raisin Kane? I love you. I've been looking for you for 5 years. You are the great. This is what I want.
Raisin Kane, General Raisin Kane. You may recall President Trump talked about Raisin Kane, a general that he met. I believe he first met him in Iraq, and talked about wiping out ISIS, which they then went on to do. Wiping out ISIS. You may remember that ISIS grew from a minivan in Aleppo. What's Aleppo? To owning a caliphate the size of Great Britain in the Middle East. And Barack Obama watched them blossom and prosper and kill and destroy. President Trump found General Raisin Kane and gave the green light to wipe them out. The United States military intelligence community wiped out ISIS lickety-split. Democrats were a little unhappy because if you're a gang of psychopathic, bloodthirsty, anti-American killers, well, then the Democrat Party probably supports you. They probably like you, probably on your side, these people. And big deal. The news media, they're very upset. Like at CNN, Trump administration fires top U.S. general and Navy chief in unprecedented purge of military leadership. And Oren Lieberman and Haley Britsky at CNN, they typed it up on behalf of the Democrat Party. Trump administration fires top general and Navy chief, unprecedented purge. It's a purge. That's a word that we use when we describe what the Stalinists did, since Nick just brought Joseph Stalin and the communists with his Ukrainian family background, his Ukrainian heritage. And he knows it's true the Ukrainians were starved, millions of them, to death by the communists. So typically Ukrainians are not big fans of communism, except maybe, a couple of twin brothers from Ukraine that Democrats elected one of them to the to the Congress very recently. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, those crazy, the Vindman brothers, Alexander Vindman, they love communism. They behave as communists behave. So back to CNN. In an unprecedented purge, they're going to use it twice, of the military's senior leadership Friday night, completely false. President Donald Trump fired the top U.S. general just moments before his defense secretary fired the chief of the U.S. Navy and the vice chief of the Air Force. That'd be the CNO, the chief of naval operations, a lady. Trump announced that he was dismissing Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Charles Q. Brown, goes by C.Q. Brown, and replacing him with Air Force Lieutenant General John Dan Raisin Kane. And he's a 3-star general. Normally, you would already be a 4-star before you became the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, but not a big thing one way or the other, because when you're a 3-star, your next promotion is to 4-star. We were out last night with a colonel, as a matter of fact, eating and drinking and having fun, an Air Force colonel, 06. But never mind that. So he announced that Lieutenant General, 3-star Air Force General, Dan Raisin Kane, an extraordinary move since Kane is retired. He's retired, according to an Air Force official, and is not a 4-star general. Normally, you would be a 4-star general to become the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, but 3-star is only one step away. Trump called Brown a fine gentleman, an outstanding leader, while hinting at the firings to come. Finally, I have also directed Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth to solicit nominations for 5 additional high-level positions, which will be announced soon. He wrote on his Truth social media platform. CNN is writing. Minutes later, Hegseth released a statement. He's the Secretary of Defense. They just call him Hegseth at CNN. Hegseth released a statement announcing he'd fired Admiral Lisa Franchetti. Lisa Franchetti. She makes a nice ravioli she does. Lisa Franchetti as the chief of the Navy. That would be the Chief of Naval Operations, the CNO. The removal of the second black man. It's always about race and genitalia with the Democrats, isn't it? The removal of the second black man to serve as America's most senior general. Who was the first one? Oh, it was Colin Powell under the Reagan administration, a Republican administration. But never mind that. The removal of the second, and we're going to, only the 14th black man to hold that position 150 years from now. The removal of the second black man to serve as America's most senior and the first woman to serve on the Joint Chiefs of Staff appears to send a strong signal from an administration that has outlawed diversity and inclusion efforts across the military and wider government. Outlawed. Well, no, that's not true. That's fun. Nothing has been outlawed. But they have discontinued the diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DEI, efforts at the Pentagon because it's not a social experiment. It's a killing force, a fighting force. Hegseth called Franchetti, the first woman to be the Chief of Naval Operations, a DEI hire in his 2024 book, in which he wrote, "If naval operations suffer, at least we can hold our heads high, because at least we have another first. The first female member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Hooray!" He's being tongue-in-cheek there. Hegseth on Friday also said that General James Slife, the Vice Chief of the Air Force, had been fired and that he was requesting nominations for the Judge Advocates General for the Army, Navy, and Air Force, indicating they will be replaced. You know, administrations do this sort of thing all the time. And just in case you think that's not the case, the UPI, United Press International, they've got a big story today, too. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, Naval Operations Chief, fired, and Alan Cohn, writing for UPI, the Trump administration on Friday purged. They love to use the same words as one another, don't they? The top military brass, firing Air Force General Charles Q. Brown, Jr. as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chief of Naval Operations Linda Franchetti, and Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force James Slife. Now, that's all fine and good, and the news media is very upset. But I have a memory that functions most of the time. And here is the crazy thing. If you go not too far back, you'll find Obama fired top military officers to align Pentagon with his vision of policy, right? So he's got a policy vision. Barack Obama did, and so he fired. How many did he fire? Just one? Just two? Obama fired, and here's another headline, Obama's military coup purges 197 officers in 5 years. What the president calls my military is being cleansed of any officers suspected of disloyalty or disagreement with the administration, that's the Obama administration, on matters of policy or force structure, leaving the compliant and fearful. Say either you obey or you live in fear, because Barack Obama says, I want everybody at the Pentagon to follow my directives, my vision for a transgender, high-kicking, putting on a musical show United States military, while ISIS grows to a caliphate the size of Great Britain. We recognize President Obama is the commander-in-chief, and that throughout history, presidents from Lincoln to Truman have seen fit to remove military commanders they view as inadequate or insubordinate. Turnover in the military ranks is normal, And in these times of sequestration and budget cuts, the numbers are expected to tick up as force levels shrink and missions change. Now, again, this is from Investors Business Daily, their story in 2013 on the Obama administration slashing 197 military officers. Now, the thing, what happened to our officer corps under President Obama since he took office, viewed in many quarters as unprecedented. There it is again. Baffling and even harmful to our national security posture. And IBD Investors Business Daily said, we have commented on some of the higher profile cases, such as General Carter Ham. He was relieved of his command as the head of the U.S. Africa Command, 4-star General Billet, by the way, after only 1 year and a half because he disagreed with orders not to mount a rescue mission in response to the September 11th, 2012 attack on Benghazi, where a number of great Americans were slaughtered by the Islamists, and the Obama administration, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, refused to send in reinforcements, refused to send in a rescue mission, refused to send in air power, allowed the Americans to die, Tyrone Woods and beyond. But Rear Admiral Chuck Gaudet, commander of the John C. Stennis aircraft carrier strike group, was relieved in October of 2012 for disobeying orders when he sent his group on September 11th to assist and provide intelligence for military forces ordered into action by General Ham, again Benghazi, right? Other removals include the sacking of 2 nuclear commanders in a single week by Barack Obama, Major General Michael Carey, head of the 20th Air Force, and on, Vice Admiral Tim Giardina, and number 2, the Strategic Command. So, honestly, it's a 3-star admiral at the Strategic Command, STRATCOM, and on. So, Barack Obama fired 197 top military commanders, and the news media applauded him for it. Now, President Trump, 2 or 3, and suddenly it's a purge. It's the end of the world. It's got to be stopped. And that's your Democrat Party for you. And that's your news media, also your Democrat Party. So amazing stuff. Now, the people at Fox News actually did a story putting it in context. Obama fired top military officers to align Pentagon with his policy vision. Now Trump set to do the same. 5 months into office, President Barack Obama made Army General David McKiernan the first wartime commander to be dismissed since 1951. That was Harry Truman, Douglas MacArthur during the Korean War. And it's fine when Democrats do it. Harry Truman was a Democrat, too. He dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan, and that's just fine. He's on your dime. But never mind all that, because when Trump does the same thing, again, it's like so many people in the Trump administration that were even jailed for declining an invitation to testify before Congress. But, Joe Biden's son, the crackhead, crack-smoking stripper, knocker-upper, he refused to appear before Congress. No jail terms for him, no arrests, no pre-dawn raids, no arrests at Reagan Airport, none of that. Were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all, and that certainly includes our corrupt news media. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived, and it builds on the incredible success of the previous 2 generations, which earned thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's Amazing Internet and immediately became a bestseller. We've got 3 of them at my house right now. I've given them as gifts, too. This new Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses 2 different technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air in your home, in your office. Also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and a whole lot more from the air that you breathe, and it gets rid of any stinky odor. No filters to be replaced again and again. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, guaranteed. Talking about litter boxes, trash cans, dirty diapers, left-wing protesters. Any smell will disappear in just a few seconds with the Thunderstorm being on. And this week only, you buy one Thunderstorm, you get one Thunderstorm for free. You buy two, you get two for free. You see how this works? No matter how many you buy, you get an equal number for free. Put one in your basement, your bedroom, your family room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code ChrisBogo. That's buy one, get one, ChrisBogo, to get one for free. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ChrisBogo. Yes, sir. All right, a lot more coming up. A lot more coming your way. Not enough time to get to it all, but we'll see what we can do. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. A very interesting story broke, I think it was on Friday. A prosecutor in Washington, D.C., looking at the possibility of prosecuting Chuck Schumer. You remember what Chuck Schumer said when he went over to the Supreme Court and he threatened members of the Supreme Court, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. Acting U.S. Attorney for D.C. opens inquiries into Democrats, alleging possible threats to DOJ, Supreme Court justices. And this is CBS Fake News writing this version of the story. Ed Martin, the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, revealed he has opened inquiries into public statements of Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat leader in the Senate, according to an internal memo to federal prosecutors in Washington. You may remember what Schumer said.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Release the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You may remember that very short time later, an armed man, a lunatic from many, many miles away from Washington, showed up at Brett Kavanaugh's house with a gun and kidnapping tools, extra magazines for his pistol. And, the Democrats, they inspire this madness, this violence, the shooting of Steve Scalise, Congressman Scalise, and then they shrug and go to lunch. Yeah, this story is pretty wild about the acting U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia looking at Chuck Schumer. And then there's a Democrat member of the House of Representatives named Robert Garcia, who also, they love I was talking about this last week, they love the martial language, right? M-A-R-T-I-A-L, the warlike language, the language of belligerence. They are the party of the American Civil War, the first American Civil War, as it's now known. Their presidents presided over our entry into, the American Civil War and World War I and World War II and the Korean War and the Vietnam War. But that's all okay with them. They're pretty amazing. And I just played the Chuck Schumer threatening members of the Supreme Court, you will pay the price, you will reap the whirlwind. And then the armed assassin showed up at Brett Kavanaugh's house. He was planning on murdering 3 Supreme Court justices, right? Now, Ed Martin, the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, opening inquiries into public statements made by Chuck Schumer, and that statement in particular. The inquiry will also review a public statement made by Democrat Congressman from California, Robert Garcia. What did he say, Michael, that stirred things up?
And what I think is really important, and what the American public want, is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight. This is an actual fight for democracy, for the future of this country, and it's important to push back.
Actual weapons. It's the Democrat congressman. And then he fired on Fort Sumter and brought his slaves with him because you know how the Democrats are. Their new slaves are illegal aliens. They lock them up in their basements and go down and abuse them every now and then. Democrats. So, that was Democrat Congressman Robert Garcia. He says the American people want the Democrats to bring actual weapons to these bar fights because it's for our democracy. Yeah, stopping you from having power would help to save our democracy, no doubt about it. Womp, womp, womp. Yes, sir. Mr. Donald Trump, President Trump, appointed Martin to serve as acting U.S. Attorney for D.C. hours after he was inaugurated last month. Martin is a one-time activist in the post-2020 election Stop the Steal movement. Previously served as defense attorney for some U.S. Capitol rioters. Oh, no. That's all right. Your presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, raised money for rioters and looters and people that attacked police stations and police cars and burned and looted and plundered. And your vice president and then presidential candidate raised all kinds of money for him. Was that okay with you guys at CBS News? I believe it was. Womp, womp, womp. Martin's memo to his subordinates in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the district is titled Operation Whirlwind. Operation Whirlwind. And said the office would prioritize investigations into threats against public officials. The memo alleged one of the most abhorrent examples was when Senator Charles Schumer led a rally to attack U.S. Supreme Court justices. Schumer said, reading from notes, "I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind." So now it's called Operation Whirlwind.
You have released the whirlwind.
And you will pay the price.
And you will pay the price.
You won't know what hit you.
You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
With these awful decisions. Now the Democrats are dangerous and criminally insane. And honestly, I've got to say that the Democrats, they're great at propaganda. And the Kavanaugh would-be assassin was arrested. And then the story went away because it's good to be a Democrat, right? The plot to assassinate not just one, but 3 Supreme Court justices by Nicholas Roski, who was an angry Democrat whipped into a frenzy. And look, I've got to say, when Congressman Steve Scalise was shot and nearly killed on that baseball field by the Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer, James Hodgkinson, he had been whipped up into a frenzy of hatred by the Southern Poverty Law Center and by Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. He was a huge Rachel Maddow fan, probably still is, and the Southern Poverty Law Center had demonized Congressman Steve Scalise. These are left-wing outlets, MSDNC and the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a joke, a tragic, despicable, deplorable joke. Southern Poverty, SLPC, the Southern SPLC rather, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and demonizing specifically Congressman Steve Scalise, who was then shot and nearly killed by a Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer. And all the Democrat suicide attacks, and there are many now, in Washington, D.C., in New York, in Dallas, in Baton Rouge. And then we've had all the self-immolations. Those are suicides, but without murders attached, generally speaking. But Democrats have self-immolated, most recently in Las Vegas, self-immolated at the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., death. At the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., death. At the Israeli consulate in Atlanta, the news media never followed up to tell us what happened to her. She self-immolated. The guy who rented the Elon Musk automobile and self-immolated at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas recently. The Democrat Party is insane, violent, suicidal in many cases. But never mind that, right? Yes, sir. Now, again, the media, they're really upset, and Dan Bongino is coming up next at the top of this hour here in Washington and in many other locations as well. CBS This Morning, soundbite number 5, this morning on This Morning, or CBS Mornings, whatever it's called, Nancy Cordes Oh, no, they've got a former Secret Service agent who's going to become number 2 at the FBI, and the media, for some reason, all spun up about this.
In another move, last night, Trump announced that conservative podcaster and former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino will serve as deputy director of the FBI under Kash Patel. Second in command at the agency is traditionally a career agent, but Bongino actually lacks any FBI experience. However, like Patel, he has been a fierce defender of the president, Vlad.
Yeah, he's also a former federal law enforcement a special agent, the Secret Service, United States of America, who protected, among other people, President Barack Obama, on the protective detail, on the protective division. But never mind all that. No, he hasn't even. And this is all they got, and that means that they've got nothing. But it's what they do. It's our news media. They're truly awful. All right, let's get to the next topic here, because this is kind of a big deal. Tom Homan, our border czar. Remember when Kamala Harris was our border czar? She was our space czar too, more appropriately, perhaps. But Tom Homan, our border czar and career federal law enforcement officer, media attacking him now too, naturally, because it's what the media does. Most corrupt institution in America, the American news media. Tom Homan was at CPAC and over the weekend, and he's talking about the illegal aliens in the sanctuary city of Boston, Massachusetts, and how they are loving having illegal alien criminals and gang members in Boston committing more crimes against innocent people because Democrats. Also, I need to correct one thing earlier. I said Pauline Kael, who's famous for saying, "I can't believe Richard Nixon won. Nobody I know voted for him." I said New York Times, New Yorker. I'd like to apologize. New Yorker magazine, not the New York Times. So we correct things here, unlike CNN and NBC fake news. But here's Tom Homan at CPAC over the weekend. And even though it's a fairly unimportant detail, but we care about facts and truth, unlike ... All right, here's Tom Homan at CPAC over the weekend.
I read a story last night, the police commissioner of Boston. You said you doubled down on not helping the law enforcement officers of ICE. I'm coming to Boston. I'm bringing hell with me.
Oh, men, and I'm coming to Boston. I'm bringing hell with me. It's this crazy idea that we start enforcing the law, and then if you're a Democrat and you're against enforcing the law, well, it becomes illegal when you start obstructing federal law enforcement agencies, which a lot of Democrats are busy doing, committing felonies, and then, there are no consequences because the permanent bureaucracy and all that. There is a Democrat on the Boston City Council. Her name is Sharon Durkan. And Sharon Durkan has a Twitter account. Musk should cancel it on her, I think, just for fun. And Sharon Durkan, the Democrat, member of the left-wing radical Democrat, it's terrible. She grew up in North Georgia, too. Didn't take. But she tweeted over the weekend attacking the border czar, Tom Homan, saying, "Laughable that someone who spent their career policing a town smaller than a Fenway Park crowd thinks they can lecture Boston on how Public Safety Commissioner Michael Cox serves with distinction and earns trust with integrity. Tom Homan should know we don't scare easy." I think she meant to say we don't scare easily, but she said we don't scare easy. Now, that's the Democrat Boston City Councilwoman Sharon Durkan, and she's wrong again. They're all as ignorant as the day is long. Now, Tom Homan served in federal law enforcement from the time he was a young man. He did serve in the small town where he grew up in New York for 1 year as a police officer on the same police department that his father served and his grandfather served. And then he went federal after 1 year, about 1 year, in local law enforcement in the town where he grew up. And this idiot, Sharon Durkin, Democrat city councilwoman, thinks that she can just throw this stuff. Well, and she can, because the Boston news media will not correct her. The national news media will not correct her. I will correct her. Amazing stuff. Tom Homan at CPAC over the weekend.
I looked at the numbers this morning. I stopped counting at 9. 9 child rapists that were in jail in Massachusetts. But rather than honoring an ICE detainer, released them back into the street. You're not a police commissioner. Take that badge off your chest, put it in the desk drawer, because you became a politician. You forgot what it's like to be a cop.
Forgot what it's like to be a cop. You take that. Yeah, Tom Homan, who was born in West Carthage, New York, his father was a police officer in West Carthage. His father was his grandfather and his father were both police officers in West Carthage, New York. And then he went to college and he ended up going with what was then Immigration Naturalization Service, INS. Now it's ICE. But he did that in 1984, right? Went federal in 1984. But these dim-witted Democrats in Boston. And again, how many illegal alien gang member child rapists do you want to have in Boston? And the correct answer when it comes to these Democrats is more. All they want is more. And Sharon Durkin, not the brightest bulb, she wants more. Isn't that amazing? I'm telling you. Yes, sir. You're a Democrat Party. Whack-a-doodle-do. Congressman Jim Jordan is a no-nonsense individual, and Jim Jordan on Fox News Sunday talking about, because, oh, no, you're going to take, and there was the hilarious, maybe the funniest soundbite from last week, was Elon Musk at CPAC when he was asked, well, you know, the reports are that you're breaking into you're going into the Social Security system and you're going to steal people's money, their Social Security money. Why would you do that?
A lot of them are saying right now that the reason that you want to get into Social Security, that you want to get into all of these into Treasury and things like that, is that you're looking for personal information and you're trying to make more money. I don't think you care about money, do you?
I mean, listen, like if I steal some Social Security, I can finally buy nice things.
Yeah.
You know?
I can finally buy, if I steal some Social Security money, I can finally buy nice things. He's worth $394 billion. He can buy nice things. It was a funny line, funny joke. But here is Jim Jordan on, trying to get our house in order.
We're not looking to make cuts to Medicaid, but certainly work requirements are something that I don't view as cuts. Work requirements are just common sense. Cut taxes, cut some spending, help the national defense, and secure the border.
Say, that's a crazy idea. Why would we do that? So, Congressman Jim Jordan talking about getting our house in order. And the Democrats want to make sure that we don't do anything to get our house in order. Right? Because it's their slush fund. They're not on our side. No, they're not. Yeah, and by the way, Elon Musk explained this the other day, too. He knows a thing or two about a thing or two, including money and finance. And, he said if we don't get our house in order, we're not going to have money to pay Social Security, send those Social Security checks, to send Medicare checks. We're $36 trillion in debt, and we just pretend that that's got nothing to do with anything. One of these days, perhaps sooner than we think, that will have something to do with everything. Man, oh man. Front page of the Metro sectional of today's Washington Post. Drug test failures fueling D.C.'s shortage of school crossing guards. 43% of applicants do not pass mandatory screening, mostly because of cannabis. Now, that doesn't make any sense because cannabis is legal in Washington, D.C. So it's like failing an alcohol test. They legalize pot, but then you want a job as a crossing guard, a stoner crossing guard. And, oh, no, you smoked pot a week ago. You can't be a crossing guard. And that makes sense. It's legal. How the Democrat Party, there's something. All right, now let's get to, because the Gallup polling people, they've got a new poll out, and it shows that now nearly 1 in 10 Americans identify as LGBTQIAA. 9.3% of Americans identify as gay, but in 2012, that was about 3.5%. So it's way over twice, almost 3 times as many people identify as gay now as was the case in 2012 with Gallup, because the Democrats' marketing program is working pretty well, I guess. Amazing stuff. All right, now let's go to President Trump with the dim-witted Democrat mayor of the state of Maine, who had a boy win in a sporting competition against girls pole vaulting last week. And President Trump, the Governors Association at the White House, President Trump called her on it. She says, yeah, I'm going to keep doing the illegal thing and let boys steal girls' trophies. I'll see you in court.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Well, down here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
That's Democrat Governor Janet Mills from the great state of Maine. She says, I'll see you in court. Being belligerent. Yeah, the boys are going to keep stealing girls' trophies. Democrats are proud of this stuff. They're not well.